What's going on, guys? It is MurderInc here, and today I have an awesome video for you. Today I'm going to show you the Ultra Nightmare team to rule them all version 2. Completely incredible team. Really excited to share it with you. This is going to be the first 2-to-1 ratio unkillable team that just yields a ton of damage, and the champion, or I should say epic champion, that is the key to this team is pretty unbelievable. If I told you it would be Seeker, and using Seeker in the clan boss, you probably would have said, MurderInc, you are memeing. There is no way you would use Seeker in the clan boss, but I can tell you that this team does in fact use Seeker, and I am giving it the crown for the Ultra Nightmare team to rule them all. And before I start, as always, I want to give a huge shout out to the person who created this team, Napoleon Camembert. Really smart guy. As soon as I saw him post about this, I said, I have to get in this, see what I can do with this. And he actually did incredible damage with it. He doesn't have the same champions I have, so he ended up having to use a slightly different variation of champions that I'm going to go over after I go over this team. Also, our friend Deadwood Jedi is going to do a video where he interviews Napoleon while he's running the team comp. So that is definitely something to look forward into. But without wasting time, let's get into this. Let's see who the champions are, and let's watch it in action and how cool it actually is. So the champions we're going to be using for this team comp is going to be Septimus, Warcaster, Seeker, Power, and Dracomorph. Now, if you told me there was going to be a team that was going to take the crown for this next version of the best unkillable team, and you told me it was going to have 2 epics in it, I would have said, no way, there's no chance. But these 2 champions actually make it happen, which is incredible to see. Now let's get into how this works and pretty much the specifics to it. So the first thing you're going to do if you do want to replicate this is you have to burn 1 turn on the Warcaster. Seeker's always going to start, and he's always going to use his turn meter boost to increase it from the get-go. For Tower, you're actually going to burn 2 turns. Then Septimus goes. Then we have Dracomorph debuffing the boss. Then the clan boss is going to go. Now this is where you use the first block damage from Warcaster on his second turn. A1 from Seeker. As mentioned before, we're also going to A1 with Tower again here. Septimus is going to use A2. Now that defense down and weaken around the boss, we're going to poison with Dracomorph. And another A1 with Warcaster. Now, one thing before I go on, this is what's really important here. I'm going to get into the masteries and the gear later. However, with the block damage unkillable team comp, this means that 100% of the fight, there's always going to be block damage. So this is what's really important. How do you guide the stun? As of right now, based on how I have the defense, how I have the HP on the champions, I have it so Septimus will always take the most damage, and he has no healing coming to him throughout the fight. Everyone else has the Life Drinker Mastery, which is going to play a crucial role in making sure this team works. So as it is, once you see the first stun in turn 3, that champion will always get stunned if you do replicate this with Tower and Warcaster. If you use other unkillable champions, this will not always apply, especially if you use unkillable instead of block damage, things will change a lot. However, with this specific team comp, you have to look at turn 2, all of the health, determine who's going to get stunned, and that target will always get stunned if you follow the masteries and the HP to defense ratio that I have in this video if you do want to replicate this team. So now we're going to use the turn meter boost from Seeker. Now this is where we're using Tower's block damage here at the start of turn 2. We're going to A1 with Septimus, A1 with Warcaster. I mean, from here pretty much I don't really need to do that. As soon as you use so this is what I was talking about before I get sidetracked. Once the stun goes on Septimus here, everything is free after this. And we can just put this on auto. And what I was going to say before is as soon as you use block damage on Tower at the start of turn 2, you can hit auto and just watch this team go. Now it does not take long for this team to hit that 2-to-1 ratio where all of these champions go 2 times before the clan boss goes once. So this is a really, really cool setup here. It's awesome to watch. Now, if you wanted to min-max this to the most success, what you could do is you could keep manualing until all poisons are on the boss and you don't have that block buff from tower. However, one thing to consider is if you do want to use this on non-void affinities, as long as it's not going to stun Seeker, Tower, or Warcaster. Warcaster is pretty much never going to get stunned because he gives void. However, if you are facing a red affinity boss, it is definitely possible that Tower or Seeker can get stunned. This is where you have a champion like Draco, who's a different affinity than Septimus, who is my personal designated stun soaker, and you can make sure one of those two champions, whether it be whoever you're using in place of Septimus or in place of Dracomorph, is always getting stunned regardless of affinity. Tower shines here because he puts that block buff on. In case you wanted to use a Valkyrie, she would never have her turn meter messed up. So you can use a counterattack here. It will only cover one of the AoEs, so that's something very important to keep in mind. There may be a way to tune it where you can get it to cover both AoEs. I'm not familiar with it. I have never tested that out. I simply wanted to get this going with the best champions that I saw would yield the most amount of damage. And this is who I picked, so I think it's definitely possible. If you wanted to play around with Deadwood Jedi's speed calculator and see if a counterattack champion would work, if it would in fact, it's possible that you can even break the record of the damage that I had in the thumbnail that I'm going to show you once this run concludes. As we can see here, we are getting the 2 turn to 1 turn ratio. I'm going to show it as soon as the stun happens here. So this is the first stun. Draco takes his first turn there. We have Seeker, Tower, Septimus is next, Warcaster. Draco goes for a second time, Seeker for his second time, and as you probably have seen already, the fact that Seeker is turn meter boosting, he's actually shifting everyone's turn meter above where the clan boss's turn meter currently was, which is what makes this team possible. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to wait for this team to finish, and I'm going to go over the top damage I've gotten. I'm going to go over the screenshot of Napoleon's team, and we're going to get into that. Then I'm going to show you the gear that these champions are using. All right, so as we can see here, 93.87 million damage in 14 minutes and 30 seconds. Absolutely incredible. We had Septimus pulling 19.3 million damage, Warcaster 9.4, and the shocking champion Seeker pulling 13.5 million damage because he does have good multipliers, and with the double hit and all of these things formulating together really gives him some really serious output. We have Tower at 9.6 million damage, and of course Dracomorph at 41.8 million damage. So this team is awesome. There's a lot of things that play into getting this 93.87 million damage. I attempted to get to 100 million damage. I did as much math as I could, min-maxing, saying what happens if perfect conditions happen. If I can get every single debuff on the boss 100% of the time, it is possible for me to hit just over 96 million damage. So obviously this run came very close. There's still room for glyphs on some of these champions. However, I don't think glyphs are going to boost me up 4 million damage. I think it's really going to come down to Mastery RNG as far as how many times War Master procs, and I think that it's probably going to take me at least 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even sooner, to get that perfect RNG run, just to see if it's possible for me to get 100 million damage in 50 turns, which is absolutely insane and wouldn't be possible without a team like this. Now that I went over that team, let's go over Napoleon's really awesome team. So this team is in fact manual, as we can see, 29 minutes and 41 seconds, because Sir Nicholas AI, as most of you already know, is definitely a pain to get working properly. One really cool thing about this team is, since he's using unkillable with a heal, you can take the defense tree mastery that also adds a counterattack to your champions if they take a certain amount of damage. So that is definitely a very powerful tool to have. This is a team where I went over the numbers if I swapped my Tower for my Sir Nicholas, and I'm pretty sure I can manual over 100 million damage while using that counterattack tactic to my advantage. However, I'm really not a fan of manual keys. When I first started doing Unkillable in October of last year, I had a manual Unkillable team, and it was really a pain for me to do every single day for months, so I'm pretty scarred from having to do that, and I really don't want to return back to that manual scene just because it left such a bad impact on me and it kind of killed my enjoyment of the game. But This could be an exception just to hit that 100 million number, because that's definitely a big achievement, and it's obviously cool to see really big numbers. So he used Krutroxa here, doing 23.8 million damage, which is awesome to see from a raw damage dealer. 32.2 million damage from his Dracomorph, 11.1 million from his Sir Nicholas, 8.6 from his Warcaster, and 15.5 from his Seeker. Once again, his Seeker is definitely better geared than mine. These champions do have the opportunity to counterattack on one of the AoEs because of Sir Nicholas's continuous heal that does apply, so that's a big thing. One thing he did mention to me is getting the stun target right was a bit more difficult for him than it was for me, since I was using block damage, and it was as simple as tuning people at the start of the match so that once the first stun happened, it always went here. But since everyone's continually taking damage there, it's not much harder, but I guarantee it was definitely a lot trickier for him to really perfect this team that he has here as opposed to what I had to do. So definitely huge props to Napoleon. This is an awesome team, and I'm really glad he figured this out on the calculator. Now that I went over the teams, let's go over the gear for all of the champions I used. I tried to find the best gear I possibly could to really push for that 100 million number. Even though I wasn't successful, this is the gear that I used. You're going to notice that there is some gear that I didn't glyph, and it's not because I have the glyphs and I was lazy. I just don't have the glyphs currently. And one other thing before people ask, yes, every single champion in this video was booked. I don't know the interactions and the AIs of all 5 champions that I personally used. So I recommend, if you are trying to replicate this, absolutely book them and make sure everything's the same so you don't run into any problems and have questions for me that I cannot answer. So going over Tower's total stats, we have 53,000 health. His A2, as you probably know, is based on health, so you don't want to overlook health. He's got 3.2 thousand attack. I should definitely work to get that higher. Maybe that can push me to the next level. We have 247 speed, 100% crit rate, 182 crit damage. Now the speed is the important part here to take away from. 247 is the speed for Tower. As far as masteries go, we have your typical War Master build with the chance to counterattack on a stun, since I don't have anything blocking the debuff from a stun. And this pretty much gives you an extra damage boost going forward. Outside of this, he does have the Life Drinker talent to make sure he's healing up, but he does have so much health that rarely looked at for the stun unless there's some crazy condition where he gets crit, no one else gets crit, and you don't properly tune the HP and defense how I have it in this video. So the next champion we're going to go over is Dracomorph. Since we're on masteries, let's go over that as well. I have the same masteries as I do for Tower. Some of it's a little bit different, but none of it really matters. All you really need is the chance to counterattack on a stun in the defense tree, and War Master along with Life Drinker. Going over Dracomorph's gear, as mentioned before, I'm pretty sure Dracomorph is the only champion that I have, now that I'm thinking about it, that is completely glyphed. I have no attack glyphs here that are left undone. Ideally, I would definitely want an accuracy banner with attack percent on it, so that's definitely something I'm going to look for if I really do try and push for this 100 million key. So that's his gear. Let's go over his total stats. We have 30,000 health, 4.5 thousand attack, 220 speed, so that's the key takeaway there. 99% crit rate, obviously 100 would be ideal, because any chance it doesn't crit, it's taking damage away from what I can possibly do. 232% crit damage, also a little bit low, but since these speeds are a bit higher and Dracomorph is actually the slowest champion on this team, it's definitely a bit harder to really balance that damage and speed ratio with all of these champions to make sure I'm getting the most value out of them. Now the next champion we have on our list is in fact Septimus. This is someone where, as we can see here, I have an attack percent unglyphed here. Going through to the shield, gloves, chest piece, boots, onto the banner. So here's another banner. I did get lucky with the double speed roll. However, there is no attack in here as well, so that's definitely a loss for me. The neck and also the ring here. Could use an attack percent glyph as well. Going over his total stats, he has 26,000 health, so he is the lowest health. 4.5 thousand attack, 2,000 defense, so he definitely has the lowest defense as well. 247 speed, 111 crit rate, 247 crit damage and 252 accuracy. This was absolutely the champion in my opinion that was the hardest to gear with this speed, trying to get as much damage as possible. Out of someone like Septimus, who's an enemy max health hitter with 247, it really tested my gear and pretty much pushed me to the limit as far as what I could use. So maybe in the future I will get some upgrades where I can use much better gear on Septimus to increase his value and his output. As far as masteries, this is the only champion that the masteries are different. I have increased damage under 50% HP. Since he does not have Life Drinker, it is very important whoever you are using in that leader role that's going to be soaking the stun, they do not have the Life Drinker talent. That's key. Don't forget it because it will mess up your entire run. He also has War Master and a chance to counterattack on a stun from the defense tree. The next champion we have here is Warcaster. He also has the War Master, chance to counterattack, as well as Life Drinker, as opposed to what Septimus had. Going over his gear really quickly, he is someone else there. I'm not sure if I have him fully glyphed out. So there we have attack glyphed. So I could glyph this flat attack. I know flat attack, what's the difference? Every little bit matters when you're trying to push for such high goals. Here's another attack percent that I can glyph as well. Also a flat attack I can glyph, and another attack percent. So Warcaster I can definitely have the most improvements for on this team. Now he has 37,000 health, 3,700 attack, 265 speed, so he's the fastest person on the team. 103 crit rate, 167 crit damage. Moving on to the final champion in this Batman comp, as Napoleon called it, and I really love the name because Seeker really is the key to this. He's a cool looking champion, he's a bat, so this is the Batman comp. Going over his gear, I'm pretty sure I have him fully glyphed out to the max. Could be wrong, we're going to check. I do have a 1% attack glyph there, so that can be improved. Everything else I'm pretty sure is all set. Okay, so I can also use the glyph on his ring. The neck looks fine and the banner looks fine. Let's get into what Seeker stats are. 31,000 health, 3,500 attack, 2,300 defense, 248 speed, 106 crit rate, 186 crit damage. These are the masteries for Seeker. Once again, he has Life Drinker, he has War Master, and he has that chance to counterattack on the stun. So now that I went over the champions, the one thing I want to pretty much touch on is who can you swap out? What options do you have? Seeker is someone you need, and you need 2 unkillable champions that have a 4-turn cooldown. This is very important, having a 4-turn cooldown. So if you wanted to use 2 towers in this situation, you can. You do have to be careful with his AI, and if you've ever used tower before, you know he wants to use the A2 and always place that block debuff on the boss, so this is definitely something to consider if you do choose to run 2 towers. Double Sir Nicholas will also work. It will definitely complicate things a little bit more using double Sir Nicholas. I'm sure Napoleon and Deadwood would be able to answer any questions on that, since that was used in the video Deadwood Jedi is going to release. However, I'm pretty confident that you could actually make 2 Sir Nicholas work if you do have 2 Sir Nicholas and you were lucky enough to, granted, get 1, but also have 2 of them. And as far as Dracomorph goes, you can use Razin in the Dracomorph spot. As far as Septimus goes, you can use literally any poisoner you want, whether it's Frozen Banshee. Probably don't recommend using Kale. I've gone over Kale before and how inconsistent Kale can be. But you can use a Cult Brawler, you can use Aothar, pretty much anyone you can think of who's a poisoner, you can absolutely use them. You can use a Venus instead of Dracomorph. So once again, as far as Dracomorph and Septimus role, you can literally use any champion you want. I mean, when it comes down to it, you could actually use 2 bullies if you really wanted to meme and make a team like that. I considered doing something funny like that for this video and showing that first. However, I decided not to, and I just wanted to stick to the highlight team comp and what it could do. Alright guys, as always, this video was a ton of fun to make. I really love making clan boss videos like this. I love pushing this game to the limit. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this team. And I know I'm mentioning it for the 100th time, but huge shout out to Napoleon Camembert. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this content, subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you don't miss my next video. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next upload.